the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to show you the 10 biggest lessons that I learned over the course of the last 2 years designing out this, my idealized and dream home gym space for myself. Now, some of the mistakes that I had to go through to get to this point were absolutely brutal. So stick around so that you can avoid making the same mistakes that I did and make the road to developing your home gym a little less bumpy than mine was. So let's get right to it then. Lesson number 1 is that space is king. What's more important when it comes to designing a functional training space? Is it having all of the dream equipment that you've ever thought you might want in your entire life, or actually having the room to use it? And I guarantee the answer is B. It's always gonna be B. There were lots of things that I really wanted and thought that I would use all the time, and also I thought that I would have the space to fit it in here. And like most home gym spaces, this is a pretty small space. My workable gym area is only 12 by 20. So I have to have the equipment that I need to use to train, obviously, but more importantly, I need the space to be able to move my body in here to train with that equipment. I realized that I was gonna have to downsize if I wanted to optimize the space and actually utilize the space for the pieces of equipment that I do use. And so as you can see, all of the equipment around me, behind me, everything in the space gets used pretty frequently. There's nothing that really gets neglected in the space when it comes to workout equipment, which leads me directly into lesson number 2, which is not going for a bunch of fluff that you're not actually gonna use. Now, yes, this is very similar to point number 1, and no, this is not just added fluff like this lesson is all about. First point was all about space. Second point is all about functionality and actually having equipment in your space that you're going to use and not overspending so that you have all of this really cool stuff in your space that you're not actually ever gonna touch. The key point, the key lesson here is to fill your home gym space, at first at least, exclusively with the things that you're already using. Don't worry about, oh, well, since I have this new home gym space, I can now get the Echo Bike. I can now get a rack if you've never used a rack in your home gym space before. Start with what you know you already use, you know how to use. Maybe you already have some of these pieces and you know you enjoy using before you start to add in all of the fancy new things that you are able to fit into your space now that you have a dedicated home gym space. Probably the worst functional thing about this gym is that whenever I want to pull a plate off of the rack, I only have about 1.5 inches of space between the plate and the wall. With this outlet, it's even smaller, and if I wanted to put anything on the wall, really, I just can't now because it's so tight. I knew I wanted to build a platform to protect the subfloor of this shed building from the weight of the rack and the bar and the plates, and so bolting it to that just made sense. Now, I was thinking about rule number 1, space is king, but I decided where to put this. I pushed it as far up to the wall as I possibly could. Point number 1, very well done. I should have thought ahead to point number 3, which is thinking practically about the layout. So when you're considering where to put in permanent pieces into the gym, play around with it mentally, maybe even play around with it physically. Make sure that wherever you put it, you're not gonna end up creating a problem, however small it may be, that you're gonna have to deal with in the long run. Lesson number 4 is to not let yourself care all too terribly much about the look of the space. Now, obviously, I have a pretty clean setup. I've worked very hard to get it to look this good, but in prioritizing that, I almost made a couple mistakes. I almost didn't get rid of the dumbbell set and replace it with the adjustable set because I wanted this space to have a certain look, a certain feel. I use this gym space as a backdrop for streaming and gaming sometimes, and I wanted it to look a very particular kind of way. And if I had prioritized that number 1, I probably would have made a few choices different than what I actually ended up with, which functionally and aesthetically has struck the balance to be the best thing that I could have imagined and the best thing that I could have created with all things considered. Lesson number 5 is to take a little extra time, maybe a little bit of extra money as needed to make sure that your space is set up for success. My anecdote here is this platform behind me that we talked a little bit about before. On the outsides, kind of about right here where my hands are, underneath, there are wood boards that are supporting on the outside, but on the inside, it's pretty bare. There's not much support. The legs of this rack fall between those supporting pieces of wood. So I knew from the beginning that in order to have my rack in this position where I wanted it in the back of the building, I would have to build a platform. So had to do a little bit of research, had to take a little bit of extra time, spend a little bit of money on the materials. It wasn't too bad for the platform itself, but now that we have this, I feel super secure in knowing that the floor is going to be able to handle the upwards of 1,000 pounds or more that this rack just natively has. I'm not going to fall through the floor when I'm squatting or deadlifting because the platform's there to catch me, and honestly, it just looks pretty damn good. Now, like I said before, you don't want to prioritize maximizing the look of your space from day one. That's not the #1 priority. But there's definitely a lot of things that you can do for not too much cash. Lesson 6 is that little changes to your space can make a big difference in the feel and the functionality of your space. All of the colored lights that you see here, they can be manipulated to be lots of different colors, lots of different brightness levels. So if I want to party in here a little bit while I'm lifting weights, I can. Or if I just want to create a little bit of a warmer, more welcoming, less harsh vibe than these can lights up here, which we'll talk about in a second, it's really easy. Also, all of these sound panels on this diagonal wall here and behind me were really easy to install. They were pretty inexpensive on Amazon, and there's a billion varieties that you can find on any online store, but Amazon included. And they took this space from being this deafeningly echoey and crashy sounding space when I was working out to making the sound pretty dead in here, both for working out and for content creation. Lesson number 7 piggybacks directly off of lesson number 6, which is that lighting matters hugely in a home gym space. So initially when we finished out this space first, all I had for lighting was these 12 super bright can lights. Working out and cleaning and building Legos, all that stuff, they're totally great for. What they're not so great for is when it's time to lay on the bench or be in any sort of supine position where you're face up and you're doing a bench press and it looks like you're crying more than you normally do when you're working out because you're like staring into the sun. So over time, I developed a lot of different solutions with these lights from Govee for ambiance, for visibility without blindness. And for me personally, it was a great way for me to make this backdrop of the home gym my backdrop for streaming and gaming, so that when I'm being degenerate online, at least what's behind me can look kind of nice. Now, lesson number 8 gets a little bit more personal and personalized for each person. I said person too many times there, but we've all got 1,000 different things pulling us in different directions. We've got family obligations, we've got work, we've got hobbies, we've got health, we've got other stressors. I'm a business owner, I am a husband, I'm a father, we have a ton of dogs, and sometimes you just want to have a space to get away from all the noise and all the drama and all the challenges, and to enjoy your own thing, and to get away from the dog hair, and to just be wrapped up in all of the things that you love, whether it's, you know, your home gym, or you have your setup in there, or your office, or your library, whatever. Having a dedicated home space that is exclusive and separated from everything else in your life is so positive for your mental health. Disclaimer, I love my wife and my kid and my dogs, but sometimes you just gotta get away, you know? So lesson number 9 is all about the fact that creating the most perfect home gym space is not going to make your workout routine just magically become easier. And honestly, I thought that having the perfect dream home gym space separate from my house but still on my property would be the solution to all my problems, and that I'd fall into a workout routine that was just 100% perfect 100% of the time for 100% of the rest of my life. And it didn't do that. Spending time challenging your body and doing things that are gonna promote adaptation, which usually involves getting uncomfortable and spending time that could be spent leisurely, that's a hard thing for any human to convince themselves to do, no matter where you're working out or what space you're in or how dreamy it is. So understand that if you are planning to spend all the time, money, dedication, and work that it takes to create the perfect home gym space for yourself with that goal in mind, I invite you to pause, since creating a home gym is not the end all for the challenge of building a consistent workout routine, especially if training just already doesn't come super easily to you. Lesson number 10 is that having a flex space comes with some very serious and unique challenges. I would be lying to you if I said I've never walked in here to do a workout and then my gaming setup caught my eye and I got distracted and never completed that workout. In a perfect world where you can just have anything that you would ever want, I would rather have separate spaces for my home gym, a separate space for my gaming area, a separate space for my workstation, a separate space for all my instruments. But I don't live in a perfect world currently, so I was fortunate and blessed enough, honestly, to be able to create this space with some separation at least, where I have my gaming and office nook behind me, and then behind the camera is where the gym is. But if I had control over that, I would separate these spaces out. So just more food for thought, more to consider here. So in the end, having your own dedicated space for whatever you're interested in, but in this context, a home gym space, it's such a game changer. It's great for your mental health. It's great for being able to access those things that you're trying to work on in general. And it's just a good time. Of course, it comes with challenges, trying to get it perfect the first time. So hopefully this video has helped you kind of navigate some of those road bumps that I experienced on my journey to creating this my perfect home gym setup. And if you're interested in seeing the painful video where I decided what equipment to get rid of to optimize the space and functionality, click here to check that out. Subscribe for more home gym, man cave, home office, gaming setup, gaming, streaming, fitness, bullshit kind of content. We'll see you next time.